Which players can you count on to go off in Week 16 and help you take one more step to a fantasy football championship? Let's find out. Welcome back, Fantasy Endgame community. I'm Pierre. He's Chris. We're here to talk booms. Those guys that we feel will bring home those big point totals to help you bring home a trophy next week. All right, so let's get to it, Chris. Who's your first boom for Week 16?
I'm going to go with Darius Slayton, and it's been a weird kind of stretch here for Slayton, right? Didn't do anything early in the season, and then the Giants just got decimated by injuries, and he was kind of, forced to be their wide receiver, and had some really nice games, and then he's been really quiet here recently, but I think this is the week to trust him because they get Minnesota. But not only that, they're in Minnesota, so they're going to get to play in the Dome. No weather issues here. Minnesota, this secondary has been very, very bad, giving up big plays. I know they didn't give up a big play to the Colts, but come on. That's the Colts. They don't make big plays. Darius Slayton, we've seen it this year multiple times. Home run hitter. That's basically who he's been his entire career with the Giants, right? A home run hitter. And the other thing is here, we know what the Giants want to do, right? They want to just pound it with Saquon Barkley, lean on that defense, and win ugly. But this is the Vikings at home. They're rolling. They have a great offense. They're not going to allow the Giants to just, sit back and run it with Saquon over and over and not throw the ball. At some point, the Giants are going to have to throw the ball. They're going to have to force it down the field if they're going to win this game. And I think that means good things for Darius Slayton. I think he's got a great chance to hit on a long touchdown in this game. Certainly there's risk with Darius Slayton. We know this, right? But look, this is the fantasy playoffs. You need upside. You got to go for it. So, if you're looking at some flex options and you got a couple guys with a safe floor and then you got Darius Slayton, I would just go with Darius Slayton. This is a great boom potential for him.
Definitely high upside flex and a guy you've got to love based on that matchup. So I'm going to talk about another receiver with tremendous ceiling. Didn't do a whole lot last week, but look, if you have DK Metcalf, don't think twice. You have to start him. You probably know, but Tyler Lockett is out, possibly even the rest of the season. We'll see what happens there, but they're going to have to rely on Metcalf because they get the Chiefs. And look, Seattle is basically in must-win, kind of desperation territory. They've been struggling lately. There are a lot of teams right around them in the mix for the wild card. I'm not saying they're going to beat Kansas City, but that doesn't matter in fantasy. All I want to know is who's going to get a ton of targets, a ton of yards. It's going to be Metcalf. Look, as it stands, even with Lockett there all season, DK Metcalf is 6th among all wide receivers in total targets and 13th in air yard percentage. Right? This Seattle passing game has been those two guys. And now it's just Metcalf, basically. He's going to get a ton of targets, and he's going against a Chiefs defense that gives up a lot to the wide receiver. Bottom 5 against receivers, and they've given up the most touchdowns on the season to wide receivers. Everything is falling in place for Metcalf to have not just a good game, not just good for him, but a monster game. So, look, even if he only gets to half of what I'm projecting for him, he's still going to be a stud wide receiver. You have to start Metcalf. All right, let's keep going. Give me another high upside boom play.
Is this the week we finally see a big Alvin Kamara game? Maybe, because he's got a great spot, right? Going against the Browns. This is kind of what you were hoping for when you had Alvin Kamara. These matchups here in the fantasy playoffs. And I know he didn't get it done last week in a great matchup, but this is an even better matchup this week. And look, I would love to see him catching more passes. That's really what's hurting him right now. Only 2 targets and 2 receptions last week, but he got 21 carries. 21 carries. If he gets 21 carries against the Browns, he could go for well over 100 yards in this game. And look, at some point, Alvin Kamara has to score a touchdown again, right? Like he's too good not to score any touchdowns since that one game where he scored 3. It just seems crazy. We just saw J.K. Dobbins, who has horns on his knees and is clearly not close to 100% right now, go for 120 yards against the Browns on only 12 carries. If J.K. Dobbins can do that on only 12 carries, Alvin Kamara, if he's going to get 20 plus carries again, can easily do that. And this looks like another game where it's going to be close. It's going to be low scoring. It's not like the game's going to get away from them where, they can't run the ball. So I like Alvin Kamara in a big bounce back this week against the Browns. I think he finally scores. I think he goes well over 100 yards rushing. Hopefully gets more than 2 targets. I think you gamble with Alvin Kamara this week in your lineups.
Yeah, when we were bullish on Kamara as based on his playoff schedule, didn't quite go off last week, was good, but it's just so annoying how he's being used or not being used enough in this offense. But you can't ignore the matchup. I still think you got to roll with Kamara this week. Let me talk about running back, very similar in style to Kamara, Aaron Jones of the Packers. Has his huge games, sometimes has letdowns. I feel a huge game coming because next week you get Miami. I know not a huge game this past week, but that was different. That's the Rams defense. Miami, not the best run defense. Look, they've actually allowed the 4th most receiving yards to running backs, and that's why I'm really interested in Jones, because that's one of his specialties. Like Kamara, who is a pass-catching running back, sometimes does more damage as a receiver than as a runner. Although Aaron Jones has been pretty good, he's still averaging 5.2 yards per carry this season. He's been good as a runner, he's great as a receiver, and among all running backs, he's 6th in targets. I feel like he could have a good game on the ground and through the air. Packers, you know what? They are going to run through Jones, I think, this coming week. He's a guy who has always tremendous upside, but based on the matchup, I feel this could be another one of his boom weeks. All right, then give me one more boom player that you like for week 16.
I was all over Najee Harris before the draft, before the season. Unfortunately, has not been the best of years for Najee Harris. But I think if you're somehow still alive and you have Najee Harris on your team, this is the week that you've finally been waiting for, because he gets the Raiders, who are, the Raiders are terrible everywhere on defense, but they're especially bad against the run. Ramondre Stevenson just destroyed this defense, probably not even at 100%, and he had one of the best games in terms of yards after contact of any running back this entire season. He looked great against this defense. And look, Najee Harris has looked much, much better recently. I gotta think that foot injury was way more severe than they were letting us know early in the season. He looks healthy. He's picking up big runs. He's breaking tackles again. He looks explosive. He's always got chances to score. And in this matchup, I think he does. I don't know if he's had a 100-yard game this year. I don't think so. But I think this week is it. He goes over 100 yards. He scores a touchdown. I think, if you've got Najee Harris and you're still alive, roll him out this week with confidence. He will smash.
And the good thing with Najee is he is scoring touchdowns lately. Last 6 games, 5 scores. You want that touchdown upside because that matters as well. And so I'm going to talk about a guy, sometimes hesitant to put DJ Moore as a boom because you never quite know, but here we go. DJ Moore in the fantasy playoffs is a guy you want in your lineup because, I can't believe I'm saying this, because of Sam Darnold at quarterback. Look, if you take out the game where DJ Moore got hurt early and did nothing because he basically didn't play, in the 2 starts with Darnold at quarterback this year, which just happened, he has 5 catches for 73 yards and a touchdown, 4 catches for 103 and a touchdown, 6 targets in each. And look, Carolina's not really a pass-happy team, but when they pass, it's going to DJ Moore first and foremost, and he's getting those quality targets. They're not dinking and dunking. He's getting it down the field, scoring, as you see, and that matters. And then he gets, who? Detroit this week. All right, and not Detroit at home, Detroit on the road. But you know what we've seen with the Lions? They've basically become a pass funnel defense because they're just shutting down all running backs, and they're still very generous against wide receivers. In fact, they've allowed the most points to wide receivers. So DJ Moore, you couldn't ask for a better spot with him. I think you got to roll with him and expect the best. All right, those are some of the players we feel really good about in Week 16. But we've got you covered as far as every player, every position, everything that matters. Right here, check out our playlist for Week 16 of all the fantasy advice you need to win.